You know how they say a week's a long time in politics? Well, oh, what a year it has been. Just take a look at some of the departures from his team. There are 19 faces on your screen right now, and it's not even close to the complete list. And today, there are new signs that the president is on the verge of firing more of his officials soon, in a purge that one source calls getting rid of dead weight. Let's get back to the panel. John Phillips, I want you to make your best case that firing or overhauling your almost entire White House team in the first year and change is a sign of management skill. Good luck.
Well, it's certainly his management style, which is that he's at the top of the pyramid, and the people below him have loyalty to him and don't particularly care much for one another. And when you do that, sometimes blood is going to be drawn and you're going to have turnover. That being said, I think the palace intrigue is something that we in the media care a whole lot about, but I don't think people who voted for him particularly care about this. From their perspective, they got the tax bill through, they got Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court. It looks like we're having progress with North Korea, and we could have some real good news coming out of the Korean Peninsula. And if the border wall goes up and good news continues to flow, I think he's in good shape.
It's all sunshine and light from John Phillips there, but Jackie Kasich, I can depend on a different perspective from you. Here's my question. Tillerson and Mattis and McMaster and Kelly, these were the so-called axis of adults who were containing the president, putting everything through a national security prism, and really keeping things in check, or at least that was the narrative. Now, Tillerson's out, McMaster may be on shaky ground, and Kelly too. What does that mean for the administration and the country?
I don't think we know yet, but I'm sorry, John, I really don't mean to pick on you, but he was talking about loyalty to the president. Well, when you're a cabinet official, you also ultimately have a loyalty to the Constitution and to the country over the president. So that in and of itself is a different way this administration is running than maybe some others. This isn't a team of rivals. The president seems to be looking, quite frankly, for a team of sycophants. And that's one of the things you haven't seen with some of the folks that you just named. Tillerson and McMaster have disagreed with the president on several foreign policy matters. Kelly has gotten himself in trouble by correcting the president in public and in the press. Mm-hmm. So the fact that the president is chafing at any sort of correction, it should is a little disturbing, because you would think as an American citizen, you'd want the president, if someone thinks that he is going about it the wrong way, to accept some critical advice.
All right, but Morey, let me ask you this. You worked for Chuck Schumer. Again, Schumer in 06 really did a good job of broadening the Democrats' message. But the fact is that Donald Trump was able to make crucial inroads into white working-class voters in the Midwest who Democrats are going to need to win back. And to John Phillips' point, they're paying attention to the economy. They're seeing a tough talker in the White House who maybe they think tells it like it is. And the Democrats have a really weak bench. So what's the message, what's the policy position that's going to counteract that blunt populist appeal from the president?
Here, the message to Donald Trump is the jig is up. So for a year,
to
and for your entire campaign, for the entire year and for his entire campaign, he sort of made this case that he was sort of the everyman. He was looking out for the every woman, the every man, the forgotten people of America. In the course of a year, what has America seen? America has seen a president and a Congress that has been nothing but pliant for the special interests. A cabinet that time and time again gets exposed for excess spending on things like first-class flights, really rich and extravagant tables, phone booths, trips to go watch an eclipse. I mean, the American public were sold a bill of goods. They gave him a shot. And what they've seen is, you know what? This guy really isn't for us. This guy actually isn't looking out for our best interest. And that's what you saw happen in Western Pennsylvania. And that's what you're going to see. Donald Trump has actually done our job for us over the course of the last year.
I totally appreciate that's your point, but I'm going to stick with you for a second, because that's definitely the Democratic script. But that's not necessarily going to resonate with his voters. So I'm going to ask it again in a slightly different way. What can Democrats do to win back the Trump voters, those Midwest working-class voters who Connor Lamb appealed to, not by attacking Trump, but by feeling their pain and connecting with them genuinely?
Sure. I mean, that's the root of it. And that's what Conor Lamb did, which was say, look, Americans are hurting. Tax policy that benefits the top isn't going to help working class Rust Belt Democrats who were intrigued by Donald Trump and gave him a shot. And what Conor Lamb did was send a message both to them and to the party to say, hey, look, we can't keep running on sort of these supranational issues that are irrelevant to the average day-to-day lives of most Americans. That's what he did in Western Pennsylvania. That's the message that's been sent. And that's the folks who went for Donald Trump last year. These are the folks that we're going to bring back home, and I think Conor Lamb has shown that it can be done.
Go local, that's the message. Kristen Stoltzfus-Anderson, you have devoted a lot of your career and work to helping Republicans to connect to a new generation. But Donald Trump, with these new moves, by and large, seems like he is doubling down on his nationalist base, that populist conservative instinct that got him elected. But it's not about bridging beyond that base per se. You saw crucially in Pennsylvania, the Libertarian candidate got 6%. That, or may have gotten as much as 6%. That's the margin right there. What does that tell you about Trump and the ability to build anything resembling a new broad coalition that can connect with millennial voters?
Donald Trump is going to have a very hard time winning over the large swath of the millennial generation that has turned away from his presidency. Bear in mind that right now the economy in the United States is doing fairly well. Millennials don't necessarily feel like they've shared in all of that prosperity, but this is a moment of relative peace and prosperity, and millennials are already pretty turned off to Trump. I think there are huge opportunities for Republican candidates to speak to my generation about markets and deregulation and all sorts of things, but by focusing on cultural issues and a need to kind of make sure that we're, that we're pushing back against economic, technological change that has led to a lot of good in America, that's where I think Trump just misses the boat when it comes to trying to speak to my generation.
All right, and that's Kristen Stoltzfus-Anderson with the last word. Thank you, everyone on the panel. Great conversation.